Madam Speaker.
Private member statements. Member for Balmain.
Thank you very much, Madam Temporary Speaker. I rise this evening to make another contribution to the record in this House about my ongoing concerns regarding the former New South Wales Labor government sale of Barangaroo to Lend-Lease, particularly the lack of transparency and the possibility of corruption in the process. The Supreme Court recently heard a dispute between the Barangaroo Delivery Authority and Lend-Lease over the size of the final value share payment to be paid by Lend-Lease to the BDA. The CEO of the BDA, John Tabart, was quoted in the Sydney Morning Herald as saying the dispute is very serious, end quote, indicating that a decision in favour of Lend-Lease will result in not only the government not receiving a fair price, it may also fail to recover its cost of the public works and transport infrastructure associated with it, which we know is many hundreds of millions of dollars. The case is being heard in an open court. However, the BDA and Lend-Lease have both urged the court to keep secret the details of what the New South Wales government is to receive from Lend-Lease. The community group, the Australians for Sustainable Development, has sought to discover the details of the Barangaroo South tender process and of the competing tenders. Lend-Lease and the BDA are vigorously opposing disclosure. It's a disgrace that the New South Wales public has not only been denied fair value for this important land, but also both the former government and it seems the current government have refused to provide transparent details of the deal. As I've previously outlined in the House, at the very least the government has been underpaid around $1 billion for the Barangaroo site, which could have been spent on education, hospitals, transport, infrastructure and much more. The BDA's continued resistance to disclosing information in the public interests makes a mockery of the government's promise of transparency and accountability. Without transparency and open access to government information, we are in danger of seeing more Eddie Obeid's and more Ian McDonald's emerge. Now, speaking of Eddie Obeid, why is the government not investigating the possibly corrupt actions that led to this dud deal with Lend-Lease? The people of New South Wales deserve answers. Why did Eddie Obeid pressure the then Premier Yemma and Planning Minister Sartor to approve a gross overdevelopment of Barangaroo? Why, when Sartor refused, was he replaced with Christina Keneally, who promptly approved that overdevelopment? Why did Keneally, as Planning Minister, take control of Barangaroo from Schiffer, the Sydney Harbour Foreshore Authority, which had successfully negotiated a fair price for Darling Quarter, and instead give control of the Barangaroo to the newly created BDA? Former Minister Sartor has said it was completely unnecessary, as Schiffer already had the necessary structure in place to handle Barangaroo, and it was only an appeal to the Information Commissioner which made the deal on Darling Quarter public, which demonstrated again that the value for Barangaroo for the Darling Quarter, landlocked and bound by the distributor, was significantly more than what Lend-Lease has paid for Barangaroo, which is significantly better and higher value property. Was Schiffer seen as an impediment to a process which was to result in the sale of Barangaroo South development rights to Lend-Lease at what has emerged as half its market value? The facts are that the BDA, and this is a fact, did not attempt to take into account the market value of Barangaroo when considering tenders and negotiations for a site. What is the connection between Keneally's compliance with Obeid's lobbying and Lend-Lease Ventures' $25 million investment in the company Better Places, which obtained a contract to install electric vehicle charging stations in Barangaroo? Is it a coincidence that Ben Keneally owns over 3 million shares in the company and that Talal Yassin, a member of Eddie Obeid's Terrigal Group, also owns more than 3 million shares? What was Paul Keating's involvement in the process? At a time when he was chairman of the Barangaroo Design Excellence Review Panel, as well as chairman of the Lazard Investment Bank, he made no secret of championing and lobbying for Lend-Lease's design for Barangaroo. Is it just coincidence that Lend-Lease is a favoured client of Lazard? Lazard was also credited with brokering the Lend-Lease investment in Better Places. Another coincidence? Is it again coincidental that Lend-Lease had only a short time earlier been selected as preferred tenderer for Barangaroo? As chairman of the Design Excellence Review Panel, what role did Paul Keating have in a decision to completely ignore the true value of Barangaroo? And why was the Crown Casino bid for a gaming licence in the Lend-Lease hotel at Barangaroo not subject to a competitive tender process? This government talks about competition and transparency. No tender, no competitive process. How much extra value does the licence create for the Lend-Lease Barangaroo project? And will Lend-Lease be asked to pay more for this extra value? We have heard nothing of this matter, of the huge windfall that it will create for Lend-Lease, and no additional money for the taxpayer. I will be referring this matter to the Independent Commission Against Corruption, and I call on the Premier to investigate and make public all aspects of the deal, including the value received for the development and leasing rights versus the true market value of those rights, the roles of Eddie Obeid, Christina Keneally, Paul Keating and the BDA in achieving a $1 billion windfall for Lend-Lease and an equivalent loss to the taxpayers of New South Wales.